Hi everyone, welcome to the Eagle's Eye, Catching Up with Berkshire Visionaries. I'm Gene Carr and I'm here today with Kelly Vickery, who's the Executive Director of the Berkshire International Film Festival. Kelly's been a visionary in the world of film for many, many years. She started her career working at the Kennedy Center, one of the nation's preeminent arts organizations. And after living overseas for many years, she came back to the Berkshires and in 2006 had the inspiration and the idea of starting a film festival. Well, 10 years later, Berkshire Magazine called her one of Berkshire's top 25 most influential people. So I'm here to be influenced and to learn about film festivals. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you, Gene. Thanks for having me.
So give me a background about why did you think that the Berkshires were the right place for a film festival, and how did you think it would influence the world of film?
Well, I landed here in 2003. We had bought a second home first and then moved here permanently in 2003, and I was actually looking for a job. And I had three young kids at the time, and so I needed a job that I could also be a mom and had some flexibility. And I am from Denver, Colorado, and a guy who started Denver International Film Festival is a dear friend. And I thought to myself, you know, we have everything in the Berkshires that celebrates the arts. We have, you know, Tanglewood, and we have Jacob's Pillow, and so much theater, and all of this. And I thought, it's funny, we don't really celebrate film the way I feel like we should be celebrating it. And film festivals were becoming more popular at the time, and so I went down to Great Barrington and talked to Richard Stanley at the Triplex, went out to Colorado and visited Ron Henderson, who started Denver Film Festival. And he said to me, Kelly, this is not rocket science. You can do it. So I came back, and Richard gave me the Triplex. And in 2006, we started very modestly at 3 screens. And it was Friday to Sunday, only 40 films. And we've grown now into different parts of the Berkshires. And we are 5 days and over 80 films and talks. And we also are 365. We have films all throughout the year. So it has been embraced by the culture. Clearly, you know, we needed it in our community, and it's been quite a ride.
Wow, that is amazing. When you say only 40 films, I'm like, how in the world? So let's talk a little bit about what it takes to put a film festival together. I assume you spend most of your year watching films,
Yes.
learning about the industry. Give us some insight on how does one construct a film festival?
Well, ultimately, it's a big special event. And so people say to me all the time, were you in film school? Are you a filmmaker? And I say, oh gosh, no. That is the last thing you'd want to be putting on a film festival, because really it's a special event. But we do start in September. We're starting, in fact, right now, to work with our international distribution partners. The fall season is in full swing. Toronto, New York festival's coming up. Telluride, Venice is probably having one of the greatest festivals they've had in years. So we look at all of those festivals, we see how they shake out, and we're talking to our international distribution partners to start sending us screeners of the film, of whatever films they have on their slate. Then we start looking at films, and it does take us about 6 months to get through all the film, and then I go out to Sundance, and usually to Berlin, and we start shaking those trees, and then we also open up submissions through Film Freeway, where that's a process where anyone can submit a film to the BIF. So we have a group of about 10 of us that just pour through over 1,000 submissions and curate it down to 80. We're tightly curated. So, but usually we have about 24 different countries that are recognized. Their films are brought to our community. And of course we have Berkshire films and we have domestic films. And so it's a cornucopia of film.
It's amazing. And in addition to screenings during the festival, you bring directors and actors. How does that all work, and what kind of access and exposure do audiences get to the craft of making film?
Well, I think that is the strength of a film festival in general. It certainly is the strength of BIF. It is really fun. We have maybe 40 to 50 directors, producers, actors that do come to the film festival, and they love it. We have an intense day and a half of what we call the Filmmaker Summit. So all these filmmakers come to the Berkshire before the film festival even starts. It is very encouraging and welcoming to the filmmakers, and they can network with each other. So it's a very warm environment that the BIF creates. And then the public, when they see the films, there's Q&As afterwards, there's talks, there's a tea talk that we do, and that brings together filmmakers, producers, actors, and it's Q&A, it's interactive, so there's a lot of access to the people making the films that you're seeing.
And have you found that the film festival has created some energy and activity for making film up here in the Berkshires? Sort of, how does the Berkshire filmmaking world interact with this festival that brings filmmakers from all over the world?
Well, it's fun because filmmakers come up here and they don't realize how beautiful it is,
Right.
and how accessible it is. And the Berkshire Film and Media Commission, they have a whole website of directors and art directors and staff that you can consult and bring in, location people. So there's so much that filmmakers, when they come to BIFs, are like, wow, we have this whole area that is available to us. And, you know, tax credits help. We're not as strong as New York tax credits, but they certainly help. But we're less expensive to, you know, sort of operate than New York State. So it's, I think it's hand in glove. Last year we had an amazing film that was totally filmed in Lenox. And every year we're seeing more and more films. We have lots of short films that are filmed here. So we get a lot of those films that are filmed in the region too.
Interesting.
In the Berkshires specifically.
And do you do any kind of award or prize or that kind of thing? Is there a rating system, or are just people coming to enjoy the festival?
No, we do. We have juried prize awards for narrative films and for documentary films. And the films that get into that juried prize are really mostly first-time filmmakers. Maybe they've made one or two films, but it's really to bolster, you know, young independent filmmaking. Doesn't need to be a young person.
Right.
We had one that was up for a jury, and she was 88 years old. And she won our audience award. So we also have audience awards. And then we do an award specifically with Berkshire Bank that is for short filmmakers. And that's a popular vote that's online that happens a whole month before the film festival. So yeah, we do have audience awards, juried awards, and the Berkshire Bank Award.
So let's dive in for a moment and talk about the world of independent film. Mm-hmm. How do people actually get into the business? How do they finance the businesses? What do they make a lot of money doing it? You know, help us understand that world, because I think many of us think about movies as Hollywood blockbusters made on a lot in Hollywood with millions of dollars, but I'm guessing that that's not exactly how independent film works.
No, it is the complete opposite of a Hollywood. Independent filmmakers are definitely a different breed. They work. All filmmaking is difficult, but independent filmmaking, you are really having to find the producers and in a very different way. So it's really hand to mouth. It is you don't work with a big team. It's actually quite small. It can be a little bit lonely making indie films. It can take years to make indie films. Documentaries, sometimes they start out telling a story one way, and by the time it ends, the story is completely different. So independent film is just a different thing altogether. And it's, do you make a lot of money? Not really. It's really a labor of love. And a lot, I mean, I know we had a film last year called Pretty Problems. It was completely funded by the director and the writer. He mortgaged his house, and they won the grand jury prize at South by Southwest, won another big prize at Sonoma Film Festival, and came to us, and they got picked up by IFC. And after he got picked up by IFC to distribute the film, he was able to retire the debt and have his mortgage back. And so, I mean, you hear about things like mortgaging homes all the time, taking out, bank loans. So it is really, it's tough. It's really tough, and you don't make a lot of money, but it's a labor of love, and it's, and independent film, I will tell you, is alive and well.
Yeah, and I would imagine with the advent of technology that didn't exist even 10 years ago, where consumers can buy the kind of quality equipment that didn't used to be available to them, I would imagine that it's kind of supercharging the making of film, and is it or isn't it?
I wouldn't say that necessarily with independent film, because
Okay.
really independent film is so very much about the story. It's not about special effects. It's not about it's really the storyline. So it's none of that has been taken away. You know, the editing is really important. The direction, the type of cast that you bring in. So all of those things are really pretty much the same. Technology certainly does help, but in the editing booth, it's really the keen eye and the storytelling that that's just old school filmmaking.
Right. So you're saying that the independent film is alive and well. Give us some examples of how it's alive and in a way where you see the industry moving.
Well, I went to Sundance last year, and they had almost 100 films, independent films there, and I saw 20 films, and it was in 4 days, and it was, I would say 18 of the 20 were fantastic. I got 16 out of Sundance last year for the BIFF. And I just couldn't believe the quality of filmmaking that was being produced, and the stories that were being told, and they're starting to come out over the summer and all of that. So that's a pretty good calculus of how the independent film world is going. And what's really fun, just as an aside, two indie filmmakers, Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig, they have been at the BIFF twice, Frances Ha, and then a documentary that was done. And to see them take this film Barbie and create this crazy, success from this film. These are two indie filmmakers that, didn't make a lot of money, and they've had, very small productions, and have taken that. There's an indie success story, if that's if you want to call it that.
Sure.
That, those filmmakers did Barbie, and Noah and Greta are now riding the wave of, a dream.
Right, right. And they've been here at the BIFF?
Twice.
Twice?
Yeah, yeah.
So when people are thinking about, well, who can I see and who can I meet at the festival, those are the kinds of artists that show up. So if you're an aspiring filmmaker, and I'm thinking about the 88-year-old, and I'm also thinking about the 8-year-old.
Yeah.
What would you, as a film festival producer, what would your advice be to people that might have the itch? What would you tell them to do?
Well, I've had filmmakers come to me who were not in film and say, Kelly, I'm going to quit my day job and I want to become a filmmaker. And I immediately say, don't do it. Don't quit the day job. But you know what? They can't help it. A filmmaker is an artist, and an artist needs to scratch that itch. So I say, get a good script, tell your story, finance it, put it together, just do it, and start submitting it to as many film festivals as you can. Because the film festival world is really, really important and critical, quite frankly, to independent film. Documentaries, their life is started through film festivals. I mean, it's very rare that a documentary is made and just goes straight to Netflix. You need that film festival world to kickstart it. International film, I mean, most of the international content that we get will never be seen in the States unless it's at a film festival. Short films, it's a great calling card to create a larger film. We've had a lot of short films at the BIFF that then ended up going to be made into a feature-length film. So film festivals are a lifeline for the independent filmmaker, and they're fun. It's a great way to meet colleagues and to interact with industry professionals, and it's a very warm community and a very supportive community. So just make that film.
Well, you brought up Netflix, and it's hard to have a conversation about the film industry today without talking about the impact of what they have done. So I wonder if you could weigh in a little bit about the pros and the cons and how you see Netflix and others influencing the world of film generally and potentially even the independent film world.
Well, I mean, Netflix and Prime and all of these, a lot of films that we have at BIFF do make it onto these platforms.
Yeah.
So again, it gives a lifeline to these, to these independent films. Never before have we seen so many independent films on these platforms.
Right.
So I'm not, I think it's great. I think it's great that independent films, documentaries can have a lifeline that are on a streaming platform. It doesn't really hurt them in the short run, I think it really helps them in the long run.
Right.
So, and there's also more money out there. It is paying these independent filmmakers
Right.
to get on the platforms. Maybe not a lot, but more than they wouldn't be making if they didn't get distribution from your traditional distribution companies. So I think it's actually positive. I think it's great, and again I think it gives independent film another access point. So I think it's good.
Well, I think, and now that we're talking about streaming, I was reflecting on your comment about the film festival, what makes a film festival special, and coming out of the pandemic, there's a lot of questions about will people go back to the theater again to see film? And we've certainly seen with the advent of the summers, Oppenheimer and Barbie, people will go if there's something to do. And people like to be with each other.
Yes, they do.
We are a species that likes to gather. And so I think there's nothing, I think, an optimist with regard to the return of people to the theater if the experience is a great one. And the festival environment, it seems like everyone should do film festivals.
Yeah.
Maybe they're budding Kellys all over the country, but that probably would be a net positive for the film industry.
Yeah, I have to say, this was, we last year were almost back to our pre-pandemic numbers. Our ticket sales were over three times what they were the year before. People want to be back in the theater. People want to be together. They want to be watching films. They want to be talking with independent filmmakers. It's fun. It is, as you say, it is fun. Now, film festivals are great, but they're a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot of energy to do it. Most film festivals don't make it to their second year. Most don't make it to their third,
Right.
and about a quarter make it to their fifth. So as we're sitting here in year 18 and feeling stronger than ever, it's great, but film festivals are really fun. And when you have a film festival in your area, go to it, support it, because it is really a great thing for a community.
Well, and I think we'd be remiss not to mention that this year saw the turnover of the triplex from one ownership to a new group who are going to try to reinvigorate film in Great Barrington, and a big hats off to that effort, because
Amazing.
It'll allow you to continue, it'll allow the Berkshires to have film, it'll allow community in Great Barrington. So I wonder, we should perhaps end by asking you, you've been at this a long time. Where do you see your next, 5 or 10 years? Where do you see the industry going? Where do you see the festival going? What gets you excited about the next chapter of the film festival?
Well, I think we're just going to continue to do what we do and just make it as good as we can. The triplex is a huge thing for us. We're thrilled that this group has taken it over. They are great fun to work with. They are supportive. They're about the community. Biff is about the community. So I see us doing more throughout the year. I think, again, I'm very encouraged by what I'm seeing at other film festivals. I think it's already been a very exciting fall with film festivals. So I think that we're just going to continue to do what we do. We're moving a little bit more into Lenox. So we've got a little bit of a foothold in Lenox, and I think it's just going to continue to be exciting and fun, and we're going to bring the best of independent film from around the world to the Berkshires.
Well, that was your vision, and it's being achieved, and it looks like it will continue. So thanks very much for this really interesting talk. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Gene. Really appreciate it.